that easterly wind that is filtering its way in. So whilst temperatures on the thermometer will be around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, it's going to be feeling closer to freezing for many of us during the day. As we move into Tuesday, the area of high pressure that's sat across Scandinavia and bringing us this easterly wind is still going to stick with us, but it's rejiggling ever so slightly, allowing this smaller area of low to just bring some longer spells of rain perhaps into the southeast, and maybe another area of low just bringing some spells of rain to the Isles of Scilly later on as well.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't miss your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16, and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, I'm Josh Howie and this is Free Speech Nation. On this hour, we are going to be having a look at Labour, who decide what the rules of Islam are and free speech. They also reckon that your kids shouldn't be taught the greatness of the British Empire. And did you know that Lego is bigoted? Plus, former footballer Alan Brazil has got himself into trouble over his comments on women's football.
It is part of the plan. What's called Project 150.
Well, I'm sorry, people around the world are not bothered.
That's not true.
And some comedians are answering some crazy culture developments from a live studio audience. There's plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week. But first, let's get a news update from Sam Francis.
A very good evening to you. Let's start with the headlines at just after 7 o'clock. We will take a look at what has taken place at the Reform Conference, where they have said today that they are now the fastest growing political party in the country, with now more than 200,000 members. At a regional conference in Wiltshire, Nigel Farage, the leader of the party, said their next target is now to overtake Labour's 309,000 members. He also called the party's growth extraordinary, with a live membership ticker on screen tracking their rise. Well, in his headline speech, Farage told Reform's crowd that the ambition of the party is now to be Britain's biggest.
If you want to help us and do your bit in whatever way you can in our historic mission, and a mission that I just feel we can't afford to fail at. There's so much at stake. Otherwise, what do we leave to those that come behind us, other than a completely broken and betrayed country? I'm not going to put up with that, and I want you to help me in making sure we prevent that. Are you going to help me in preventing that?
The Prime Minister has sacked one of his health ministers over offensive comments he's reported to have made in a WhatsApp group. Andrew Gwynn has also been suspended as a member of the Labour Party and has since apologised for what he called misjudged comments. It follows reports in the Mail on Sunday claiming he reportedly made anti-Semitic comments and joked about a pensioner, saying he hoped she died before the next election. It's also alleged he attacked members of his own party, including making racist comments about Diane Abbott and sexist comments about Angela Rayner. Well, the Housing Minister Matthew Pennycook praised Sir Keir Starmer's response, saying he acted decisively.
Comments made by Andrew Gwynn are completely unacceptable. That this is going to be a government that upholds the highest standards of conduct in public life. We're a government in service of working people, so we've taken decisive action to dismiss Andrew Gwynn as a minister, as is the case. There's a live investigation going on in terms of the Labour Party. Andrew Gwynn's been administratively suspended. He's lost the Labour whip. I don't know what was said in those WhatsApp groups. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment.
In other news tonight, the parents of two girls killed in the Southport knife attack say they are looking for light in the darkness. Speaking to the Sunday Times, 7-year-old Elsie Stankham and 6-year-old BB King's families remembered their daughters as confident, happy and intelligent. They also opened up about their children's funerals and the support they've received from their communities in the months since the horrendous attack. Alice de Silva Aguirre was also among those who lost their lives. And, excuse me, it's because I'm so excited, Plymouth have stunned Premier League leaders Liverpool, knocking them out of the FA Cup in a famous 1-0 victory at home park. Ryan Hardy's 53rd minute penalty sealed their first win over Liverpool since 1956, leaving fans in disbelief and the visitors' hopes of a quadruple in ruins. It's only the fourth time in FA Cup history a team outside the top division has knocked out the league leaders. Liverpool made 10 changes and fielded a very young bench and paid the price. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in an hour. Now, though, plenty more with Free Speech Nation.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is the show where we take a look at culture, current affairs and politics. And coming up on the show tonight, we have Angela Rayner is set to create a council on Islamophobia. But could a blasphemy law be created as a result? I'll be also addressing some of my comments on headliners that have blown up online. You do not want to miss that. I'll also be showing you the latest social sensations that have gone viral this week. And, of course, myself and my fantastic panel will be answering questions from our wonderful studio audience. Thank you so much for coming out. Very much appreciated. My comedian guests this evening are Bruce Devlin and Cressa Wetton.
Hello, how are you?
Lovely to see you. Haven't seen you for a bit.
No, I've been helping a very good friend of mine, who shall remain nameless, Nicola, move house.
Nicola of the...
Just Nicola. Her name's just Nicola.
Don't you mean move caravan?
No, because apparently we don't know where that is. So, yeah, she's just moved house.
What about you? You've moved house. You have a house.
I have a house. I live in a building.
You're not interesting anymore.
Do you think?
That was it.
That was my
Everyone's
whole...
like, Krista, she's so wild and crazy on a boat. Now you're just like a boring, like the rest of us.
How lovely of you to say so. Thank you. Yes, I've got rid of my personality.
And you smell a lot better. I have to work with Cressida every day, so thank you for your washing machine.
Don't take me for granted.
I appreciate it. OK. We're going to get some questions from the audience. Our first question is from Steve. Or as I know him, Big Steve.
That's how you know me.
Look at you, you switched around this week. Got a pink T-shirt.
Still got
the moves.
Between the breasts.
Yeah, no, thank you. You're doing it all for me. I'll screenshot all of this later.
Should women be forced to change their clothes in front of male colleagues?
Yes. OK, should women be forced to change their clothes in front of male colleagues? This is an NHS nurse involved in a tribunal says a male doctor was allowed into the changing room while she was undressing despite raising concerns to management. She was suspended for bullying and harassment after becoming distressed following an incident in which she was suffering from heavy menstrual bleeding and again encountered the male doctor in the changing room. Steve, have you been following this? This is NHS Scotland.
I have. I wouldn't mind it, but for balance, it shouldn't happen.
OK, not the person I should have gone to here. Anybody, if you see Steve in your dressing room, whether you're a man or a woman, I would actually just ask for security to come out there. Krista, have you been following this?
Yes, The Guardian, welcome home. They can get back to whinging on behalf of women instead of against them. It feels like nature's healing in this. This is a piece that I read today.
Oh, well, this is The Observer. The Observer's different from The Guardian, I'm afraid.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it's on the same website. The point is, it's a left-wing paper that's suddenly coming back, covering this from the direction of women, which is what's changed.
Yeah, Bruce, I mean, this is NHS Scotland. Is there much
I don't need
publicity
the help, honestly. I don't need the help of NHS Scotland. I'm fine.
Have you followed this story?
I have. I read it on the train, actually, and mine came from The Guardian, funnily enough, and it's to do with this woman that... Is it Cowdenbeath or somewhere in Fife?
Yes, NHS.
Yes, NHS Fife. So, was the doctor in question, the male doctor, a male doctor that had transitioned to become a woman?
Well, there's a male doctor who said that they were a woman. They haven't physically transitioned. They have all their bits.
Oh, right, OK, so a bit like Caitlyn Jenner, from my understanding. I don't know any of the Kardashians, regrettably, but yeah, I think if the woman doesn't want to get changed in front of the guy that's still got his doodly-doo, I think that's fair enough.
I think it's actually quite a big scandal that we're going to see even more of, because it seems the NHS Trust, they lost some paperwork, and she is the
because they're not bringing that to the court, are they?
Not anymore, but they've lost it. So it seems like there's a bigger scandal here. We're going to find out more, and I hope so. And this brave woman who's had to stand up for her right to dress in safety and peace. And dealing with the institution. Right, our next question is from John.
Should universities face funding cuts if they fail to promote the religion of diversity?
Indeed, yes. Should universities face funding cuts if you don't promote the religion of diversity there? This is, it looks like Britain's universities could soon face research budget cuts unless they can prove they are ticking the right diversity and inclusion boxes. A new funding shake-up means institutions will now need to show they're tackling inequalities, monitoring diversity stats and giving special recognition to DEI initiatives. So, John, what do you think about this? Money going to people who
don't deserve it?
Well, you said it. That's incredibly racist of you. But what do you think about this?
Well, if on it were diversity of perspective, diversity of opinion...
What a great answer. No, 100%, yes.
Diversity of sausage rolls, because you accosted me outside while you were eating a sausage roll and spat quite a lot of it into my face.
Yeah, so, Krista, you've seen this initiative here?
Yeah.
It's like, when it comes to research, let's just focus, and this is scientific stuff, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, I completely agree, diversity of perspective. And obviously, you want to maintain high standards, or you're deprived. It's an educational institution. It's education first, or research.
Yeah, Bruce, I mean, the only diversity you don't want is diversity of ability. You want the best.
But you get that in comedy all the time.
Oh, well. Yeah, and that's why it shouldn't be anything to do with our universities and our sciences. Next question is from Chris. There we go, passing over.
Oh, they mean business.
There he is. OK, Chris, here we go.
Hello.
Hello.
So, is the Home Office getting too close to home?
Yeah, the Home Office getting too close to home. The Home Office has ordered Apple to open up its encrypted cloud storage, but the tech giant, calling privacy a fundamental human right, may pull the service from the UK instead. This demand falls under the Investigatory Powers Act 2016, my favourite Powers Act, which applies to any company operating in Britain. This is kind of scary stuff. Our government looking... Have you got an iCloud at all?
I am one of the most offline people that still around because I don't have any social media. The online world...
It's all Polaroids, right, for you?
Almost.
I've seen you on Grindr, though.
Right, OK, so... I'm not... Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So, it terrifies me. I think the information that the companies may have on you, there's no reason, according to some, they shouldn't have that information, but I think a lot of the time they're spying and it terrifies me. So I'm absolutely for Apple for saying no.
Well, I mean, these lies, as a great point, is they contain our lives. They contain all photos and emails, everything.
Yeah, it's just inappropriate. And there's always this argument that if the government were able to look at this information, if you were a wrong and then a criminal, we'd be able to solve crime faster. And, OK, that sounds good, but it's not good enough. That's still worse than privacy being maintained. OK, well, look, I want to fit our final question, and it's from Ryan.
Evening, all.
Hello.
My question is, should the taxpayer be funding furry events?
Oi, oi, oi. OK, should the taxpayer be funding furry events? This sort of connects to what we're going to be talking about later in the show. This is a taxpayer-funded Scottish wildcat charity, has been caught up... Even saying those words is somewhat ridiculous. It's caught up in a sleazy scandal after partnering with a controversial furry convention linked to bizarre sexual fetishes. After furious backlash over the event's ties to X-rated content, including a workshop on writing animal-themed erotica. OK, the charity has scrambled to distance itself, pulling out... That's the wrong choice amid public outrage. So what do you think about this?
I mean, I think it's part of the problem of the LGBTIAQ+ word soup and everything going under the banner of queer. Institutions can argue that this warrants funding because it falls under that all-encompassing umbrella, which is a nonsense. And I think that whole word salad needs to be split up. It's kind of become a joke now.
I would just like to say that I did not pay you to say that. But that is very much connected to what we are going to be talking about later. Yeah, do furries, are you familiar with furries? I mean, you're halfway there with the beard.
Oh, sorry?
OK, that was a wrong thing to say.
Yeah, I saw a furry demonstration yesterday when I was in Manchester.
Yeah.
And there was nothing of a sexual nature going on. I don't know what they do behind closed doors, but it's interesting because we were talking about that.
Did you say a furry demonstration?
A furry demonstration. I don't know what they were demonstrating about. I was in a rush because I had an early check-in.
OK, more litter boxes.
Well, I've no idea. It could have been anything. But they were just doing stuff that didn't involve a horizontal refreshment, right? They were just out in their costumes, whereas you have to watch the pups. It's the pups that want the sex.
OK.
That's my understanding of it.
OK,
right?
yes.
Yes.
OK, I mean, what do you think about this furry phenomenon?
Well, I've got a friend who performs stand-up as a dog and identifies as a furry, and he says there's nothing sexual about it.
Yeah.
But I guess it's probably mixed, isn't it?
What is the allegation? What is the sleaze?
Well, the allegation, this particular convention has put out... There is a lot of sort of kink or stuff
They've specifically warned people going to the event not to
make paedophile images of children and animals and write erotica.
Reading about this in the Telegraph, they said something along the lines of, and that warning tells you all you need to know. And I thought, but as a channel, we go on about trigger warnings a lot, don't we? I mean, I still believe that the majority of people... I don't know if that's
a trigger warning more than a warning. I mean, if we're going to go to see I don't know, like if there's a football game and it says, by the way, don't bring any football child porn stuff along, whatever it is, you'd go, why are you even mentioning that if it's connected in any way, even tangentially?
That when things are... if it's turned around, we sometimes get very sensitive about other people's oversensitivities, and I wouldn't want to do that. But I absolutely take your point. It's the word soup, as you put it, is very dangerous.
Oh, very interesting point from the pro-furry Cressida. Coming up on Free Speech Nation, I'll be addressing the online backlash following comments I made on the LGBTQ+. You don't want to miss it.
GBNews Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
TikTok chefs, Instagram chefs, that they put children off or young people off of cooking because it's so expertly done that they can't do it. No, my young lad, he's 17, he is amazing in the kitchen. Oh, he is. He's amazing in the kitchen. And he gets it all off TikTok. He comes down, he can put burgers, wraps, stews, curries, sauces, and the smells in the kitchen. I said, where'd you get these? Oh, just TikTok, I'm trying it out. And it's just amazing the things that he can conjure up. So for some people, it might be... it's an inspiration for him. So they're saying that it's intimidation. For my boy, it's an inspiration. They say it's entertainment. For my boy, it's an infomercial. I watch him doing his stuff. At that stage, I could do baked beans on toast and knock up a salad. That was it. But my boy can do all sorts of stuff.
It makes it accessible as well, doesn't it? Because lots of people say, like, you need an education to be in the kitchen, or you need to go find yourself loads of cookbooks. But you don't.
No.
You go on your phone now.
Well, I mean, like, all the spices, sesame oil. I mean, I'm amazed at the stuff that he does. So it's encouraging. All you just need is a kitchen well-stocked and have a go. And understand that failure is actually the route to learning. I mean, he's made mistakes, he's stuck stuff in the bin, but that young man, I am amazed at some of the stuff he does.
I don't mind cooking at all. It's cleaning up that I have the problem with. Dawn, let's talk about sex.
Can I just say there are things called restaurants, by the way? Just put that one. Oh, my hell, I don't even know where the kitchen is.
OK.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News, 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. OK, let's do this. On 22nd of January, on Headliners, the GB News late-night paper review show featuring 3 comedians. You should watch it, it's great. We covered a story about a bishop who had rebuked Trump to his face as he was creating protections for women and children against gender ideology. And at the end of that segment, you only get about 2 minutes for each story, I made a joke about how going against child protection might be a bit rich coming from a church, and I quoted from their website and said the type of church that she belongs to, the diocese, it talks about the full inclusion of LGBTQ plus persons. I just want to say that includes pedos, right? Anyway, it was a joke about churches as much as anything else, but we'll get to the anything else in a second. I would like here to add a little comment to that, because the context of the clip and about the context of my statement, OK? For over 3 years on the channel and online, I have followed the lead of a group of homosexual campaigners who want to take back the LGB from the TQIA2S+. Now, this has already happened, by the way, in America. The LGB now has been officially separated in government websites and paperwork and stuff for this reason. And one of the reasons for doing so is that the LGB don't want to be attached or associated with what's included in the Q+. So what is in the Q+ then, right? We don't know. Nobody knows, OK? They are deliberately open-ended terms. It's an open-ended term that anybody can identify into, right? There exists no definitive list of who and who isn't included in the Q and the plus. And that's the problem. Because people advocating for paedophilia to normalise it say they're included, right? Just like PI, I don't know if you heard of PI, the Paedophile Information Exchange that tried to latch onto gay rights in the 1970s and legitimise their actions as a sexuality. And by the way, it was gay activists who mobilised to kick them out. So exactly the same thing is happening now with the term MAP, which means minor attracted people, essentially created to make paedophilia sound more acceptable. Okay, now, there are over 30 academic papers have now been written at universities, including MAP under the queer banner, the Q, all right? So my point is, I didn't say LGB are paedophiles. I didn't say trans people are paedophiles. I didn't say intersex or two-spirit people are paedophiles. What I am saying is that for for some people, the full inclusion of the LGBTQ+ includes paedophiles. I even said it at the end, stressing the point that, of course, and they cut it out, by the way, in this 7-second clip that was put out online, and I even says at the end, if you're talking about the full inclusion, just to emphasise my point, OK? Because one of the comments I read online was a mum of a gay son who had 2 of his own kids who was very upset. She thought I was had said, that her son was a paedophile. I didn't. But I'm genuinely sorry that anyone might have taken what I said to mean this. And I apologise to her, anyone who thought that's what I was saying, OK? The fact is, paedophiles exist in every single group, right? Every single ethnicity, every single occupation. And in all those places, they need to be called out. OK, what I'm talking about here, though, is the splitting of the LGB from the Q+. And this is something we've talked about many times on this channel, on this very show, on Headliners. I've talked about it online, and why the Q+ aren't terms fit for purpose, OK? It was within that context I said what I said. I can see why some people might think I was being homophobic, when in fact I was being the opposite. LGB must be separated from the Q+, as it has been done now in America. They have nothing to do with each other, right? You're not going to get that from a 7-second clip. You might not get it from the 2-minute segment either. I assumed our audience would understand my point, the people watching the show, the people who watch Headliners, which, with the benefit of hindsight, was clearly, obviously, not the case. I'd like to say, I'm sorry, anybody who thought that I was making an offensive comment, I'm sorry. I'm sounding now like I'm being a bit too defensive. I just want to point out that I would never do that because I am, as our audience here knows, I'm a gay icon. Anyway, thank you. I don't know why you're laughing, it's true. I am now joined by the discrimination barrister, Robin Moira White. Hello, Robin. I don't know if you heard what I just talked about. You, I believe, were the person who originally made the complaint of homophobia. Do you still feel that way?
I have no idea whether I understand that 50,000 other people...
But you're the person who originally raised this point, right?
I did, but my understanding is that the number of complaints to Ofcom is now...
Yeah, 50,000 people who watched a very small, tiny 7-second clip.
Well, and I've just listened carefully to what you said, and I came on to listen carefully to what you said because I had made a decision never to go near GB News again after I'd heard what you said. I think you need to play back what you just said to yourself, because you talked about separating the LGB from the Q+, and carefully didn't mention T, virtually all the way through everything you said. Now, which category... So I'm left not understanding which category you put T in what you've just said. You didn't include the T in a positive category. I understand the point you might make about what's in Q+, but you've not said anything about T in the last 5 minutes or so. And the splitting the LGB from T, Q+, whatever, you would have to accept is a minority view within LGBT circles. Many, many more people say that that group works better together and supports each other. And I have to say that the, quotes, official separation of it by the most appalling government in the US that's ever been elected has been thoroughly rejected by the LGBT plus community in America.
Yeah, the LGBTQ+, but not the LGB. Many in the LGB community in America are very grateful that Trump has made this move.
Well, we know, for example, that the LGB Alliance in the UK represents the views of about 1% of LGBT people. 99%.
Well, you don't know if they represent the views. They may have that many members, but that's not necessarily the case in terms of what they actually believe or think.
Anytime it's been studied, that view is a completely minority view amongst LGBT.
But do you think that view has also changed a lot considerably over the last couple of years? I'd like to answer your question, though, about the T. No, frankly, I don't think that the T belongs with the LGB, because LGB is an inherent characteristic. That's how you're born. I don't believe that the T is necessarily the same as that.
You're perfectly entitled to hold that view. Everybody's entitled to hold their view, to speak about their view. But I've just listened to what you've said. I heard you in the short clip, which was either clumsily stated or not properly cut or broadcast in the way that it was, that very clearly implied that you were accusing all that group of being
No, I didn't. I said here the full inclusion of the LGBTQ+, and I repeat it at the end, the full inclusion. If I was going to call LGBT people paedophiles, I would have said I'm calling them paedophiles. I didn't say they are paedophiles. I said the full inclusion of the LGBTQ+. I stressed that twice, specifically for that reason.
I'm sorry to say, but I came on to listen carefully to what you said. And if you play back the clip to yourself, and you'll hear yourself leaving the T out and leaving your position as far as T. Is it your view that T people are inherently paedophiles?
No, not at all. No, I've said that there are paedophiles in every single group. There are paedophiles in... I'm Jewish. There are paedophiles. There are Jewish paedophiles. There are Christian paedophiles. There are black paedophiles, white paedophiles. It's nothing to do with the T. I'm talking here about the expression, the totality of LGBTQ+, does include people who sell paedophiles who are using it to legitimise themselves.
The other tremendous danger with minority groups is that, journalists play a game where they try to get the name of a minority group and criminal in the same sentence, or paedophile in the same sentence.
Sure.
Roma, for example. I have Roma relatives, and Roma have been targeted in that way for centuries by different groups, and we know how destructive that is to people's view. I think Romanians were treated in the same way, and that there have been appalling things happen to minority groups because of this game of getting the name of the minority group and the accusation of criminality close enough together that people make that assumption. Now, you and your channel have launched straight into that area with a complete lack of care and did what you did on the 22nd of January.
I don't believe it was with a lack of care. I believe you should be able to call out paedophilia wherever it is, in whatever group it exists in. But we're not even talking about calling out certain people. They're talking about the legitimisation of paedophilia as some kind of sexuality.
Please, nothing I say should in any way be taken to endorse or support paedophilia. Not in any way.
Can I first of all say...
What you said, the way in which the channel put out that piece appeared to suggest that, and you should be a mature TV channel and you should be aware to those dangers, and plainly you weren't. And in listening to what you said this evening, it's very plain that the T fell into a gulf somewhere between the LGB and the Q+, and you weren't plain about that in what you've said. So have a listen back.
Well, I believe that there is a gulf there, the T, the I. What does intersex have to do with LGB? What does T... I also didn't mention intersex, did I? I didn't mention intersex because I don't believe intersex has anything to do with LGB. I don't believe T has anything to do with LGB. That's why I left them out. I don't believe... What else is it? The two-spirit. I don't believe that's got anything to do with LGB. But anyway, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for coming in. We do have to cut off and say... I do want to say, do you have another point to make? One more final point, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Final point. The point of your session this evening was to try and put right wrong, which you and your channel created on the 22nd of January. You haven't done it.
OK, well, that's your opinion, and it's also your opinion that I dig wrong. I have apologised for any misreading of what I said. I have put it in context. I do not believe a 7-second clip within 5 years of advocating for this position properly represents that. I would also, by the way, like to say thank you for coming on. I would also like to say I was offended by you utilising Holocaust Memorial Day to prove your point about trans people. That's a separate thing, if you would like to come on and talk about that another time. But I'm not accusing you of anything for doing that. But I don't believe that your point has got anything to do with Holocaust Memorial today anyway.
I don't need lessons about Holocaust Memorial Day. My grandfather was the 3rd British serviceman in through the gates at Bergen-Belsen.
Are you Jewish?
No. And I
thank you.
speak to
All right,
Jewish,
so thank you very
Jewish
much.
communities about the experience that my grandfather had.
Thank you. And thank you to your grandfather, but I don't believe that makes you be able to compare this experience with the Holocaust. I think that's a ridiculous comparison.
I don't need lessons about the Holocaust, I'm afraid.
Well, I think you do, because the Holocaust is not the same as someone making a little joke on a TV show, OK? On a comedy TV show. But thank you very much. Genuinely, I do appreciate you coming in. That is not me being supercilious or anything. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was pretty heated, wasn't it? That was exciting. That was almost for a second like I was a journalist or something like that. So, you know what? We are going to be coming back after a break to talk to the founder, co-founder and trustee of the LGB, none of the LGB Alliance, Kate Harris. Let's see what she has to say. See you in a second. Bye.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
You may well be thinking of escaping the cloudy skies of the UK and heading to the Mediterranean, though it is rather mixed out there at the moment. There are some heavy showers and thunderstorms across parts of Malta and Sicily, though recent snowfall across the Alps should hopefully help with some skiing conditions. Perhaps the most settled conditions across parts of southern Iberia, Portugal and Spain, though there is some showery rain pushing into parts of Madeira as well. Generally, it is going to be the west that holds on to the most settled conditions during this week as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We might be transitioning into a new week, but we're holding on to a very similar weather pattern. The cloud that's been filtering in from the North Sea today is going to continue to provide outbreaks of rain and drizzle overnight, particularly for areas of England and Wales, parts of southeastern Scotland as well. This will be wintry over the hills for the Pennines, parts of the Chilterns and the Downs as well. Over towards the west, there will be some clearer skies, particularly for northwestern Scotland. That will allow temperatures to drop off, so maybe lows of -5, -6 degrees Celsius here. There could be the isolated freezing fog patch around first thing on Monday, maybe some localised icy stretches as well on untreated surfaces because of those showers around. But despite the very cold start across the northwest, it is going to see the best of the sunshine here right throughout Monday. Quite a pleasant day to come here. Elsewhere, we're going to be plagued by quite a lot of clouds, quite gloomy scenes for many of us. These showers still continuing to push their way in from the east. Will still also be falling as snow over the higher ground areas, perhaps a couple of centimetres or so building up over the Pennines during the day. It is going to be feeling rather cold underneath all that cloud, particularly with the lack of sunshine, but also we have to filter and factor in that easterly wind that is filtering its way in. So whilst temperatures on the thermometer will be around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, it's going to be feeling closer to freezing for many of us during the day. As we move into Tuesday, the area of high pressure that's sat across Scandinavia and bringing us this easterly wind is still going to stick with us, but it's rejiggling ever so slightly, allowing this smaller area of low to just bring some longer spells of rain perhaps into the southeast, and maybe another area of low just bringing some spells of rain to the Isles of Scilly later on as well. For most of us, though, we do hold on to a lot of that cloud. It's going to be the northwest again that sees the greatest chance of some sunshine during the day, but that cold theme really is continuing, and that brisk easterly wind is looking like it's going to stay with us for a good few days to come. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Earlier on GB News.
The Prime Minister has sacked one of his health ministers, Andrew Gwynn, over offensive comments that he's reported to have made in a WhatsApp group.
We have our monthly ministerial scandal, and Andrew Gwynn seems to have provided this month.
President Trump has wasted no time in getting straight to work, signing a swathe of executive orders.
Our team has printed off a full... This is how many there are. You can't quite... I mean, it's a whole...
It's a book.
It's a whole booklet.
Felicity were rescued from a slaughterhouse and Josette was from a horrific meat market. No to dog meat, they go in and they are on the ground in Newlyn saving dogs.
From 6, it's GB News Breakfast.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation, still hosted by Josh Howie. I am now joined by the co-founder and trustee of the LGB Alliance, Kate Harris. Have you seen what's happened this week?
I have, but let me start by clearing up a few factual errors that we've just had shared with us. First of all, the split between LGB and QTIA+ is a myth. Everybody who's gay or lesbian or bisexual, who's as old as I am, grew up with a movement for lesbian and gay rights. The T wasn't added, generally, in this country until 2015. It came like a parasite. Just like paedophile information exchange was a parasite on Gay Liberation Front, TQIA+ was a parasite on what was a very healthy movement for lesbian, gay and bisexual rights. So please, if anybody thinks that LGB Alliance split the movement, we didn't. We are returning to the original fight for gay and lesbian rights that started at the Stonewall riots and has gone on over the last 50 years very successfully. In terms of the QTIA+, why do we think it's parasitic? Because it is promoting an ideology that destroys the lives of homosexuals, it destroys the lives of children, it destroys liberal democracy because it's a pack of lies. It's based on a concept that doesn't exist, which is that everybody has a gender identity. Now, this is a cult belief. This has no basis in fact. So as LGB Alliance, we've been fighting since 2019 to stand up for there are two sexes. Sex cannot be changed. Children should be left alone to go through puberty. There should be no unnecessary medicalisation or surgery of gender non-conforming children. And freedom of speech is an essential plank of a liberal democracy. So thank you, the USA, now following us, following the example of a tiny charity. This whole thing about how many members have you got? Who thinks this? Ask the average person in the street, are there two sexes or are there multiple sexes? They will say two. Does every single person on earth have a mother? Yes, they do. Should we let lesbians and gays be happy and grow up and have a nice time? Yes. Most people in this country think in very clear terms. Now, to say your comment about paedophiles at the end of that stupid clip was homophobic, it makes me terribly angry. I'll tell you what's homophobic. Cutting breasts off teenage girls because they're gender non-conforming. Giving puberty blockers, which has only stopped this year, to kids who are confused because of organisations like Stonewall who've been lying to them since 2015. So it's the QTIA+, which is homophobic, and the plus is the lethal part. And we've said this over and over again. I've said it to government. We've said, as LGB Alliance, in all government documents, it's time to return to LGB, which talks about people with same-sex sexual orientation, and any other group you want, but name them. Do not have a plus, because there is a long, long, shameful history of paedophiles latching on to respectable organisations, because guess what? They can't get away with what they're trying to do. Unfortunately, today, we're actually seeing, in some countries like Germany, they're actually pushing for paedophilia to be a protected characteristic. They're saying it's a sexual orientation. We've got people like the Jacob Breslaw, the trustee at Mermaids, saying, yes, I attended that conference pro-paedophilia and now I'm a trustee of Mermaids. What's wrong with that? They're normalising this phrase, minor attracted people. It is disgusting, it is disgraceful, it brings shame on our society. So we want the QTIA Plus to be exposed for the danger it holds.
Do you think that that might be a silver lining of what's been happening, the exposure here? Because I speak to a lot of people. My mum sort of messaged me in a panic this week. This is the person who used to drag me along to gay rights movements and whatever when I was a kid, and go, what's happened here? This is saying that you're homophobic. There's this big, it's had hundreds of thousands of views. It's had all these complaints, people contacting me online, you're homophobic and whatever. But it should hopefully draw some attention to this Q+.
Let's remember, when you have no argument, you call somebody names. So, for example, Jolyon Maugham, who is behind the Good Law Project, and I understand that they've been gathering signatures to say what an awful homophobe you are, this is typical of his playbook. He calls you names when he has no argument. There is nothing to suggest that you were saying gays and lesbians are paedophiles in that clip. He just says, you're a homophobe. When we were in court, because he took us to court, because he didn't want there to be a charity in the United Kingdom standing up for homosexuals.
The only charity, right? The only charity exclusively dealing with LGBT rights.
The only charity that has been attacked mercilessly, online, offline, by politicians who should know better, by celebrities who should know better. Jolyon Maugham and his supporters in court, he didn't give evidence, I guess he was too scared, but the witnesses, time and time again, told us we were transphobic, we were homophobic. I was cross-examined on this. And again, it comes back to they are frightened of discussing their ideology because there is no factual basis for it. And the thing about the plus, as I said, we've discussed this with politicians and said, how can you possibly put this in a government document? OK, you could say queer. Some people like the name queer, especially straight people with blue hair. T.
I'm jealous of anyone with hair.
T under the Stonewall definition, which has just been reduced. It used to have 19 definitions under the T umbrella. I think it's now been reduced to half a dozen. I is now people with disorders of sexual development, which have nothing to do with this. Asexual. We've just had a fellowship at King's College London to research asexuality. Just breathe deeply, breathe deeply.
I was asexual for about 3 weeks when my wife and I were arguing.
There you go. And then we have plus. And what I say is, don't be naive. We see child abuse, we see attacks on women and children in this country at an all-time high. We have to be on guard. If we say plus, what is the boundary? What is the limit? There are many people who wish to see the age of consent reduced and reduced and reduced, and they talk about empowering children. Be afraid, be very afraid. Anything that has an open-ended definition or a little plus sign is a red flag. Safeguarding alerts should be going off, and we all need to stand up and just be incredibly careful about the whole of the TQIA+, but in particular, that awful little plus.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about something a little bit more positive. What other work is your charity doing?
Well, when Bev and I started this in October 2019, we did lots and lots of boring stuff. Writing letters, hassling people, knocking on doors, so on and so forth. We now have a much more fun, as well as still doing the lobbying, the consultations, meeting politicians. We also have a social angle now. So Robin Moira-White may say, you know, we've got 35 members. Well, shows how much Moira knows, because we don't have members anyway. We have supporters. We have friends groups around the country. We're just working on launching LGB International, because a number of groups have spotted around the world, not because of us, but of their own volition, spontaneously. And we need to stand up against groups like ILGA, who spout the QTI nonsense worldwide. Don't forget, ILGA was thrown out of being an observer at the UN because of its association with NAMBLA, a paedophile organisation in the US. So this is why we have to be so careful. There are so many examples of gay and lesbian groups being infiltrated. Also, I should mention that for young people from 13 to 24, we have an online chat helpline, so that any kid who's thinking, you know, might I be gay? Might I be lesbian? Am I born in the wrong body? Because they're taught so much complicated lying at school and, of course, online, which is shocking. If they want to talk to somebody who will definitely be lesbian, gay or bisexual, they can do that online chat. There's no conversations between the people who call in, but it's an online service. And we'll continue to develop services like that, and just to develop our voice, because we are so often misrepresented. That's why we like GB News, because you have us on. The BBC will not have us on, ever. Channel 4 News will never have us on. ITV will never have us on, because we're the wrong kind of gays and lesbians. So it's a real effort for us to be heard, but we're constantly trying to talk to journalists and get our message out.
That's why this channel exists, that's why this show exists, and thank you so much for coming and joining us on your Sunday evening.
And you're not a homophobe, you're gorgeous.
Thank you very much. I'm back to be a gay icon, yes! Good times. Right, thank you so much, co-founder, trustee of the LGBT Alliance, Kate Harris. One more round of applause. Join us in a few seconds for the next part of Free Speech Nation. See you then. Bye.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
5 years ago now, we developed this campaign called Regifting Beauty. And Regifting Beauty is about giving back to those that are in less fortunate situations than the majority of us. And I was coming across people that were receiving gifts at Christmas. You know how many gifts we receive? Gift sets, items, bath bombs, all of these things that we don't necessarily use. For myself, they sit in the bathroom cupboard all year round. So I was thinking of a way how we can make that better, you know, put that to better purpose. And we developed this campaign 5 years ago called Regifting Beauty. And it's where people can donate unwanted toiletries, sanitary items, skincare, perfumes, and we work with different charities around the country, and they will re-gift them to survivors of domestic abuse. And for years now, it's only really been focused around women. There hasn't really been a male focus. So Ben and I were having conversations, and we were thinking, well, and I was getting comments throughout the years of doing it, saying, why are men excluded from this? Surely it should be applicable to men too. I mean, in the UK, over 700,000 men are suffering with domestic abuse on an annual basis. And a lot of that goes unreported. And there's over 2 million people in the UK that do suffer from some form of domestic abuse, be it physical or psychological, and it's an important topic that we should be discussing. So this campaign is about providing something that may seem trivial, but it restores some level of dignity, and I think that's so important when survivors are just trying to regain aspects of their life. Something so small that maybe sitting in your bathroom cupboard that you're not using could go to such better use. So this year we're launching the Regifting Beauty, the Turnaround Edition, about turning around moments in life and allowing people to have those turnaround moments, which also plays on Ben's, song, Turnaround.
Gotta turn
it fits in nicely with that.
Which I'll be on with you.
For the remix,
It's all fitting in nicely, isn't it?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. In a growing controversy, a coordinated campaign by pro-Palestinian editors has been accused of manipulating Wikipedia's Israel-Palestine articles. The group, which includes dozens of seasoned editors, has been linked to efforts to downplay Hamas's actions and promote fringe views of the conflict. A new report reveals their efforts to reshape public perception by altering key articles and silencing critical information, especially after the October 7th Hamas attack. As the debate over bias intensifies, questions arise about the reliability of Wikipedia's editorial process. I am now joined by writer Ashley Rinsberg. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you, guys.
So, Ashley, when did you first become aware of this issue?
I've been working on the Wikipedia issue in general for the last 6 months or so. And that means there's been this real lurch to the far left by Wikipedia. And that's everything from the organization that owns it, that's been aligning with George Soros type influence and George Soros himself, and on the website itself, which branded Trump a fascist, which has kicked off anyone who is not a far left editor. And then finally with the Hamas stuff, which popped up, I'd say, in October, a source tipped me off to what was actually going on the site and how widespread it is.
So what are they actually, can you give me any examples or what they're trying to achieve here?
They're editing thousands and thousands, actually around 10,000 articles. They've made 850,000 combined edits. And what they're trying to do is to remove any tie between the Jewish people and the land of Israel. They're downplaying allegations of crimes on October 7th, including rape. There's a lot of rape denialism in this group. They're whitewashing crimes by the Iranian government and by the Palestinian terror factions. So this is across the board. It's anything that agrees with the pro-Hamas, official pro-Hamas line is now being implemented onto Wikipedia.
Well, we've seen this in the past, and it's not an unusual thing for people to edit Wikipedia for their political lives. We saw Owen Jones, I believe. Are you familiar with Owen Jones? Yeah. Most Jews are. When he was at university, I believe there was this thing where he was actually editing the definition of being Jewish and trying to not make it as an ethnicity, just trying to make it like we're just a religion. Yes. Where, of course, we're an ethno-religion. What is different now? Is it the scale of the people involved here?
It's the scale. It's these guys. Owen Jones left a trail, right? These people are veteran editors. They are in the top 99.9% of editors by the volume of edits they've made over the lifetime of their accounts. They know exactly what they're doing. And most importantly, they coordinate. And they know how to coordinate in a way that flies under the radar so the admins on the site don't catch them. So they work in twos or threes, almost like miniature digital terror cells, so that they can avoid detection and still have the widest possible impact.
So what can be done then? Or has Wikipedia responded to this report?
So, since my report came out, 6 out of the top 10, and the top 10 are really the core of the group that were actually making the most impact. 6 of those have been banned from working in the Palestine-Israel area, article area. But that's not nearly enough, because everything they've done until now is still there. It's all still on the site, and all the information that is used by Google, by ChatGPT, that gets pulled in from Wikipedia automatically, it gets ranked #1 on Google, it's all still there. So what we really need to do is continue to raise awareness, and we need to pressure Wikipedia into do the right thing.
Well, congratulations on your report, actually, at least taking some action, and hopefully now we can point more to it. Thank you very much for Ashley Rinsberg coming in here. We are going to see you at the top of the next hour. We've got so much more stuff. I can't wait to get into it. See you then.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We might be transitioning into a new week, but we're holding on to a very similar weather pattern. The cloud that's been filtering in from the North Sea today is going to continue to provide outbreaks of rain and drizzle overnight, particularly for areas of England and Wales, parts of southeastern Scotland as well. This will be wintry over the hills for the Pennines, parts of the Chilterns and the Downs as well. Over towards the west, there will be some clearer skies, particularly for northwestern Scotland. That will allow temperatures to drop off, so maybe lows of -5, -6 degrees Celsius here. There could be the isolated freezing fog patch around first thing on Monday, maybe some localised icy stretches as well on untreated surfaces because of those showers around. But despite the very cold start across the northwest, it is going to see the best of the sunshine here right throughout Monday. Quite a pleasant day to come here. Elsewhere, we're going to be plagued by quite a lot of clouds, quite gloomy scenes for many of us. The showers still continuing to push their way in from the east. Will still also be falling as snow over the higher ground areas, perhaps a couple of centimetres or so building up over the Pennines during the day. It is going to be feeling rather cold underneath all that cloud, particularly with the lack of sunshine, but also we have to filter and factor in that easterly wind that is filtering its way in. So whilst temperatures on the thermometer will be around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, it's going to be feeling closer to freezing for many of us during the day. As we move into Tuesday, the area of high pressure that's sat across Scandinavia and bringing us this easterly wind is still going to stick with us, but it's rejiggling ever so slightly, allowing this smaller area of low to just bring some longer spells of rain perhaps into the southeast, and maybe another area of low just bringing some spells of rain to the Isles of Scilly later on as well. For most of us, though, we do hold on to a lot of that cloud. It's going to be the northwest again that sees the greatest chance of some sunshine during the day, but that cold theme really is continuing, and that brisk easterly wind is looking like it's going to stay with us for a good few days to come. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is, 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It's the body image thing that concerns me. It's young girls watching Love Island and really skinny girls and young boys
hit the gym after this. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, they're seeing perfect bodies on the screen.
You don't need to go in the gym, Maymoon. You look gorgeous as you are, love.
I know. You see, the reason I don't enter anything like that, Kerry, is you know
you're gonna win.
Exactly. And it's not fair. It's not fair, I think, on everybody else being there.
It's not fair.
No.
So, Kerry, what do you think about the body image thing? You know, when you talk about your daughter, is that something that you'd worry about, her comparing herself to the likes of what she sees on the screen?
Now, this is where there's a conflict of interest for me, because I've been brought up in this industry since I was 17, so it's massively affected me. I mean, when you're put on the front cover of magazines after having a baby with a stretch mark in the circle of shame, you know, it does do a psychological effect on you. I think a lot of celebrities who've been around for so many years, as I have been affected by that. But everyone has to bear in mind, I've had my children. I'm in my 40s. I feel I'm entitled to have my tweaks and try and improve on what I think are going down south, and health and safety, tripping over any things that I don't want to be tripping over anymore. But I definitely do believe, I mean, majority of the young girls that go on Love Island, they all have the same big lips, the same big eyelashes, all the butt implants, and the barely in their 20s. You know, it's if you go to the airport now, I remember going to the airport and I looked around and all the girls looked exactly the same.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good evening, I'm Josh Howie, and this is Free Speech Nation. This hour, Labour will decide the rules of Islamophobia and free speech. They also reckon that your kids shouldn't be taught the greatness of the British Empire. And did you know that Lego is bigoted? Plus, former footballer Alan Brazil has got himself into trouble over his comments on women's football.
hopefully it is part of the plan. What's called Project 150.
Well, I'm sorry, people around the world are not bothered.
That's not true.
And some comedians are going to be answering some crazy culture developments from a live studio audience. There is plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week, but let's get a news update first from Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you. It's just after 8 o'clock. The top story tonight. Reform UK say they are now the fastest growing political party in the country, with more than 200,000 members. At a regional conference in Wiltshire, Nigel Farage said their next target is overtaking Labour's 309,000 members. He also called the party's growth extraordinary, with a live membership ticker on screen tracking their rise. In his headline speech, Nigel Farage told the crowd that Reform's ambition is to be Britain's biggest political party. Take a listen.
If you help us and do your bit in whatever way you can in our historic mission, and a mission that I just feel we can't afford to fail at. There's so much at stake. Otherwise, what do we leave to those that come behind us, other than a completely broken and betrayed country? I'm not going to put up with that, and I want you to help me in making sure we prevent that. Are you going to help me in preventing that?
The Prime Minister has sacked one of his health ministers over offensive comments he's reported to have made in a WhatsApp group. Andrew Gwynn has also been suspended as a member of the Labour Party and has since apologised for what he described as misjudged comments. It follows reports claiming he reportedly made anti-Semitic comments and joked about a pensioner constituent, saying he hoped she died before the next election. It's also alleged he attacked members of his own party, including Diane Abbott and Angela Rayner. Well, the Shadow Chancellor Alex Burkhardt said that those comments from Andrew Gwynn show that Sir Keir Starmer hasn't got a hold of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party.
The worst thing that I've seen Mr Gwynn say on that group was that one gentleman was too Jewish. Now, Keir Starmer claims that he's gotten on top of this problem in the Labour Party, but he clearly hasn't. We need to know who else was on that group. Did they call Andrew Gwynn out when he said that? If not, what sanctions are going to be taken against them? You know, we need all of this out in the open as quickly as possible, because otherwise it's the same old Labour, same old anti-Semitism within the left in this country, and you know, it shows that Labour hasn't changed at all.
In other news tonight, a man has been arrested after 3 people were injured in a suspected knife attack in the north of Dublin. 2 men are still in hospital with serious but not life-threatening injuries. A third has less severe wounds. The Justice Minister Jim O'Callaghan has called it a random attack, and local Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou MacDonald expressed her shock, sending thoughts to the victims and their families. A large police presence remains in the area and officers are continuing to investigate. There is, they say, no ongoing risk to the public, but are appealing for witnesses to come forward. The boss of Marks & Spencer has accused the government of treating the retail sector like a piggy bank as businesses face rising taxes. Stuart Machin says changes to national insurance and a new packaging levy will cost retailers billions, with no benefit to recycling. He's urging ministers to rethink the tax hikes, warning of job losses and slower wage growth. The government, though, defends the tax rises, saying they're necessary and that many smaller firms will see no change or cuts to their bills. And warnings are continuing today over potentially deadly cold snaps hitting the UK. The Met Office says temperatures could plunge as low as -7 degrees in parts of the country, with some areas set to be hit by snow and even ice. The UK Health Security Agency has issued yellow cold health alerts for North East, North West, Yorkshire, the Humber and South East, which is in place right through until Tuesday. It does mean that vulnerable people, including the elderly or those with serious health conditions, could be at risk due to those plunging temperatures. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you for a full roundup of all the top stories at the top of the hour. Now, though, it's back to headliners. Free Speech Nation. That was close.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello. Thank Thank you very much, Sam. I'd just like to say Sam is a very handsome man, and I have no problem saying that. I'm very comfortable saying that. Welcome back to Free Speech Nation, me, Josh Howie, along with Bruce Devlin and Cressida Wetton. Hello. So, we are going to go straight into some more questions from the audience. Our first question is from Michael.
Should trans men receive free fertility treatment?
And Michael, can I just say I very much like your look?
Thank you. I like yours too.
Well, that's it. So should trans men get free fertility treatment? Yes, it's been revealed that the NHS is offering fertility treatment to trans men, biological women, who want to transition, while many women are denied the same service on cost grounds. Patients born female can have their eggs frozen for free, yet women delaying motherhood due to careers or lack of a partner are left to foot the bill themselves. Yes, this has just come out. So what do you think about this?
So that doesn't seem like an equitable situation to me.
Yes, that seems a little bit unfair, Michael. Yeah, I think so. That's true. What do you think about this, Bruce?
I think you should ask Cressida.
Well, I don't want to ask Cressida.
OK.
Yet.
It's just because I'm not a woman, so I'm not freezing my eggs.
Well, this is the perfect time to reveal that you are. No,
what?
No, but do you think it doesn't matter whether you're a woman or not, you can still call out unfairness or not?
I suppose it's not something that I've thought about myself. That's why you probably have a stronger opinion about it than me. I understand what you're saying. I don't know what's fair and what's not.
No, fair enough. I mean, I love to give my opinions on things that...
No, that's so unlike you.
I can't help myself. What do you think about this,
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Obviously, they should get all the people that want their eggs frozen and make them race for it. I don't know. I mean, it's a very limited resource. It's a very expensive process. And you can imagine that anybody that loses out is going to be really bitter and angry. I suppose it pivots on this idea of whether or not you feel trans is whether you see it as the way it's presented by the trans community, whether you think it's mental illness, or whether you think... how do you... Because if you transition, you're very likely to have infertility problems later on, right?
Whereas with the drugs that you take.
Yeah,
and by
exactly.
the way, these are the drugs they're giving to children who will then become infertile. So that's why Wes Streeting has banned the use of them after the Cass report came out.
So meanwhile, if you're a woman with endometriosis, it might not cause... It's quite complicated. So I can see why the trans men might feel that they belong further up in the queue. But, I mean, it's fraught, isn't it?
It is fraught, and I guess it just comes down to, like so many things, what do you think is fair? And if they're preferential treatment, that's arguably not fair.
Do you think then people will view it as trans, men having their cake and eating it?
I just think it should be fair either way, that's all. It should be either everybody gets that money, those resources are made for everybody who needs that treatment to get it, or not. And I don't think that being a trans man should put you to the front of the queue, so to speak. That's what I think. Anyway, our next question is from John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we play down the British Empire to our children or kids?
John, we got the perfect person to ask that question. Thank you so much. You were there during the British Empire. And sorry, that was a joke.
I may be long in the tooth, but actually I've travelled the world in my job. And
what's that? What job do you do?
Flying.
Oh, wow. Okay,
yes,
yeah.
So I've been all over the world, virtually, except for Russia, would you believe? Anyway, I've always found that the people that you talk to in places like Australia, New Zealand, and even the United States and what have you, they have a good opinion of the British Empire. But I think from the children's point of view, why don't we do both? Right, the good parts and the bad parts.
There you go. I think you've answered perfectly there. Yeah. There we go. Thank you very much. Of course, I should say there are other countries, John, who might not be so happy about the British Empire, India, whatever. But yes, I should explain the story, by the way. The government is reviewing the education system with proposals to overhaul the curriculum, including removing lessons on the greatness of the British Empire. Education groups have called for more diverse literature, compulsory climate change lessons and financial education, whilst Labour promises a broader, richer approach to learning. There's nothing wrong with a broader, richer approach. But what do you think, John?
Well, there wouldn't be. I don't think this sounds very broad or rich to me.
No. I think this is ideological.
Absolutely. And we need to be unified as a country. I mean...
We've done some great stuff.
We've done some great
Defeated
stuff.
Hitler.
And I don't
Stop
want
slavery.
all the kids, yeah, all that stuff. That's a good start.
Toilets. No, I don't, that was Romans.
I want the children to have something positive. I don't want this endless diet of, oh, sorry. You know, it's too much. I think we need some positivity, and I reject this.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, we took over Scotland, and...
Did you?
No, we didn't.
No. I don't blame you. There's nothing there.
Did you see the story that in Scotland they're trying to say there are people in Scotland now saying that they were a colonised people?
Of course there are people in Scotland saying that. You should see what the people wear up there. Honestly, it's a nightmare.
What do you think of this story? We need to be positive about our culture, right?
Well, I think it's the case that you can't just expunge things because you now feel uncomfortable with them. I think that everyone should be, you know, like they're saying, a broader historical knowledge.
Yeah.
And you can't deny what's going on in the past. You know, you can't prevent people from hearing stuff they won't like. You know, what's the name of that woman in America? Candy something?
Candy Science.
Yes.
Yeah.
She says, wear a crash helmet. Seriously, if you're going to go through life, wear a crash helmet, because you're going to hear some stuff that you don't like and some stuff that you don't agree with. But I think it's important that you know everything.
OK, fair enough. I'm not particularly a fan of Candy Science, but that's fine. We're just... but look, the point... I guess what the point here that's being raised is that do both. That's the point. It's like there is great elements to the British Empire, and they should be... John, you want to say one more thing?
Would you mind if I did say something?
Yes.
I think it's about 51 years ago that Grenada in the West Indies got their independence. And Carol is from the West Indies, and there's nothing wrong with Carol or the people that come from there, is there? They've proved it.
Well, I mean,
yes.
No. Well, I mean, I know Carol a bit, and there's a lot wrong with her, but but the rest of Grenada are fantastic. Our next question is from Adik.
Hello, Josh. It's quite even painful even to ask the following question: is anti-Israel activism unhinged?
Yes, is anti-Israel activism unhinged? This is because, yes, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign applied, this is insane, to protest against Israel on, they applied on 7th of October 2023. At 12:50, they called the police force, while Hamas's attack on Israeli civilians was still ongoing. We're talking about rapes, beheadings, murders, entire families burned alive, kidnappings, the most evil things maybe that we've seen this century. Critics have condemned the timing as morally reprehensible, accusing activists of prioritising anti-Israel demonstrations over acknowledging the massacre of innocent people. Did you hear about this week? Did you hear about this news, what happened, Adik? How, the timing of it?
Yes, I'm completely aware. I think I even remember Rachel Rayleigh.
On that night,
on that
celebrating.
night, she posted on X the abhorrent pictures. So it's completely showing that it's not really activism, it's a pure hate. So it's nothing to do with activism. It's just a pure hate of the Jewish people. And obviously, it's easy to say it's Israel because you don't have to say Jew. So it's just blatant anti-Semitism.
I mean, I found it utterly disgusting when this news came out, because I just remember being that Saturday morning, and then you started getting messages from people worrying about people who live in the south of Israel, and then you start seeing the footage. And to think that as this information was coming to light, as the terrorists broadcast what they were doing to the world, as you saw these horrific clips, that someone out there went, you know what, we're going to protest against the victims. Mental.
Well, that's not what they would have said, is it? They would have said they're protesting against the war that followed.
Yeah, but there was no... Israel hadn't even, at that time, even responded. Israel was just trying to survive.
I totally understand that. Yeah. I'm saying it was obvious that there was going to be...
What would I do without you for balance here, Cressida?
There's no way... I mean, you could argue, if you wanted to, you could say, well, Hamas were picking a fight in order to have the war afterwards. It doesn't... Both of those things could be true.
But to be able to gather, to protest about this, it just seems... Adik, sorry, do you want to say another point?
Yeah, I just want to just mention about the irony of it, about all the activism, they have to do it from mobile phone computers. Where's the chip coming from? Where's technology coming from? It's Israeli. Develop it initially. So the irony, the bigotry is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it's... Anyway, yes, I agree. Bruce, I'm sure what you said, I would totally agree with.
Thank you.
Let's go to our final question, because I just love this so much. Bruce, we're going to go to you first after this. Chris, come on, this is a good one.
Hi.
Is that a Lego bigoted?
Yes, it's Lego bigoted.
Sorry.
No, not at all. Thank you so much, Chris. This is about, Lego being bigoted. The Science Museum's self-guided LGBTQ+. We're hearing it again. Tour claims Lego reinforces heteronormativity. Okay, I think I got that right, heteronormativity, because bricks are described as male and female, and then they mate when connected. The claims, along with other controversial inclusions, has been criticised as ideological and lacking scientific basis. Bruce, what do you think? Do you like a bit of Lego action?
No, I don't. I was much more Playmobil when I was a younger man.
You like the bigger slots?
No. I'm not even going down that road with you. It's just filth with you 24/7. My favourite in Playmobil was the vicar, and I'm not even religious. It was just I liked the word vicar. But the thing about being Lego being bigoted, I know so many gay men that are obsessed with Lego and do not feel this way.
OK, yes, good. So, Josh Howie, not homophobic, and Lego. We have covered the full spectrum of toys. Krista, what do you think? This is one of the funniest stories of the week.
I can't believe it's real news.
It is
bonkers. We talked about it earlier in the week, and the fact that my brother and I played with Lego a lot. We never said the word mating when we were doing it.
Hopefully.
I promise we didn't. This is just mad, isn't it?
It is mad. I talked about this on Headliners, the late-night newspaper review show with 3 comedians that goes through the next day's newspapers, only on GB News, 11 o'clock every night. But I was talking about how I used to get my 2 female bricks together. And...
but was that not like batteries repelling each other?
Well, our other panellist at the time pointed out that in non-heterosexual sex...
Is there?
By the way, before that's clipped up, I would like to point out that that was a joke. Very clearly there. Yes. But it is... I mean, is this just overreach?
To be straight, to put something in something, do you, is where I'm going with this.
Oh, wow.
Holy moly!
We're hearing it all tonight.
Please.
What colour are these?
Watching this show.
What colour are the bricks?
Any colour you like. They were rainbow.
I mean, is this... I mean, also, the fact this was at the Science Museum. Is this institutional capture, as we've seen over the last few years?
Activists out of museums, please. I went to the Imperial War Museum the other day, which is essentially like a monument to male death.
And
all
those big guns.
They had...
Whoa. Sorry. Those big cannons with their balls. OK, let's go. Sorry. Sorry, Cressida.
They had mugs saying the future is female. Well, I doubt it. It doesn't matter.
Did they really?
Yes. And I just thought, look, I'm not so bloody fragile, excuse my language, that we can't have, we can't have a gift shop without something saying, yeah, but women... Anyway, doesn't matter. Separate point. But I just think activism in museums is a bit tasteless.
Fair enough. Right, next on Free Speech Nation, actress Lily Collins and her husband Charlie McDowell decided to have their first child via surrogacy, which led to receiving a lot of backlash. Should surrogacy be banned? This is Free Speech Nation. It's also Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. See you in a sec.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, after moving to the UK from Kochi in Japan over 25 years ago, our next guest missed the taste of home and started making sushi with local ingredients.
Yes, Tominey Davies went on to establish Tominey Sushi Party, inspired by her mother's dedication to cooking fresh meals every day.
Now, while sushi is usually enjoyed in restaurants in Japan, Tominey is showing that anyone can create it at home. So here we go. She's already taught over 500 people and is now bringing her passion to even more people.
So she joins us now in the studio to give us one of her sushi masterclasses. First of all, we're a little bit nervous. We're certainly not pros. I love eating sushi, but certainly not making it.
As long as you follow my instruction, it should be that easy.
OK, great. That's what we like to hear.
So tell us a little bit about your business and why we're here today?
Of course. So, my name is Tominey Davies. I'm originally from the place called Kochi, as you mentioned, and I'm the founder and owner of Tominey Sushi Party. So we bring authentic, hands-on sushi making classes to homes, offices in London and home counties. Also, we run public classes, the information which you can find on my website.
Yep.
So this goes all the way back in 90s, actually. When I was a student...
Never.
The Japanese food wasn't widely available. But I really craved a beautiful, aromatic aged sushi, Japanese food. And when you're craving something, you started making your own at home. And I fell in love with the Englishman. He brought me back to UK. Then that's the time more people start asking me, can you teach me how to make sushi?
The People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Actress Lily Collins and her husband have received backlash after announcing the birth of their first child via surrogacy. While the actress was inundated with congratulations from fans, she was also faced criticism for joining the ranks of Hollywood stars having a baby via surrogacy. Critics have argued it's rich people renting women's bodies. This week, GB News presenter Miriam Cates sparked controversy by calling for a ban on surrogacy, echoing concerns raised by Pope Francis. Cates argued that deliberately separating a child from its birth mother is ethically unacceptable. While surrogacy is illegal in most countries, the UK allows altruistic surrogacy where women are not paid. I am now joined by the founder of the campaign group Surrogacy Concern, Helen Gibson. Helen, welcome.
Thank you so much. Nice to be back, Josh. Thanks a lot.
So, first of all, what is surrogacy?
So, surrogacy is the process by which a woman gets pregnant, either with her own egg or with a donor egg or a commissioning parent's egg, with the intention of getting pregnant and then giving birth to the child and the child being taken away in the delivery suite. Now, this has been legal in a grey area since 1985 in the UK, allegedly not for payment, but what we think a lot of people at home would be quite shocked to know about is that actually the expenses that we see in UK surrogacy average around £20,000 per pregnancy, broken down into monthly payments like a salary. So what we want everyone to know is that what's called altruistic surrogacy in Britain really isn't the full picture.
So are we talking about people using their own eggs to then be implanted in somebody else who would then sort of grow the baby?
So it completely depends. So you see different scenarios. You see traditionally in Britain, traditional surrogacy has been quite popular, where a woman just gets pregnant using her own egg, using artificial insemination, often with the commissioning father's sperm, and then gives the baby away at birth, giving away their own genetic child outside of adoption frameworks, local authority oversight. More typically, we see gestational surrogacy, which is when she's pregnant with an implanted embryo, which needs IVF to keep it going. And that egg will come from either a commissioning female parent or, again, very common now, a donor egg selected from a catalogue.
Now, I'm imagining this practice started with women who were perhaps infertile, who wanted to have a baby. Maybe they couldn't carry a baby to term, or maybe they wanted their husband or partner to to have some genetic influence. Is that kind of how it started?
Yeah, and we still see that now. And we should say we have nothing but the deepest of sympathy for anyone who can't have a child and desperately wants one for whatever reason. But our argument is that surrogacy is profoundly unethical, wrong for the child who's removed from their mother at birth. And she is the mother because of how women's bodies make babies, even when she doesn't use her own egg in the process, which in this country they often do. But yes, it was about wanting that genetic connection with the child. And again, we don't blame anyone for wanting that, but we have to ask ourselves, why is it that in France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Finland and Austria and Switzerland, it's totally illegal in all forms. They don't allow any surrogacy, whether for payment or apparently not for payment. It's completely banned. There are other liberal Western democracies like us. What do they know that we don't? We don't think this is safe. We don't think it's ethical. And actually, there was a major study undertaken in Canada, which came out last year, that showed, having looked at 860,000 births, that gestational surrogacy is 3 times higher risk for severe complications such as preeclampsia, postpartum hemorrhage and sepsis. And we don't think poorer, lower income women, working class women, should be put to these kind of risks so that richer people, and they generally are richer people, can take away a baby from their mother in the delivery suite and she potentially never see them again.
Well, I was going to say that it seems like obviously, it seems like celebrities are utilising this as a way, so, like you have film stars, I guess the idea is that they want to not put on weight or something like that. And this is why they're doing what they're doing, which I think most people wouldn't agree with from an ethical point of view. But is there, and I'm sorry to terribly use this expression, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, is there scope, though, does it have to be all or nothing, is what I'm saying?
Sure, absolutely. And we are often asked this question, and we're often asked, well, surely there's a halfway house where if it was just for people who had medical issues and it was just for absolutely for no payment. But what we always say is that in any sort of human relationship like this, there's always the ability for regret, coercion, pressure from within the family and friends model. And when you look at it from the point of view of the child is always taken away from their mother at birth. That goes against all best practice and known guidance about the bonding in utero that we know happens through the process of cell exchange between mother and baby. The baby recognises the mother's voice, even her smell from tasting her amniotic fluid in utero. We've known from the testimony of hundreds of thousands of adopted adults down the years, this is really bad for children. And yet when it comes to surrogacy, we say, oh no, it's fine. And all of the teaching that we know about how important it is to keep mothers and babies really close together in the weeks after birth is just allowed to go out the window because some more privileged upper middle class people want to be able to do this. We don't think it's a path that should be open to anyone. It does have to be absolute, I'm afraid, because there's no safe or ethical way of doing this.
Well, you know, you say, you know, rich people who are doing it, and as we have seen in this case, yes, rich, famous people doing this, but it may well be that someone has a friend and they're infertile and their friend says, look, you know, they don't, for whatever reason, have any eggs, and I'm willing to have a baby with your husband's DNA or whatever. I mean, do you really think that there's no money, it's done as an altruistic purpose? You know, that person will be a great mother, who will, just like if they had adopted. Sure. So you really think that is just not acceptable?
Well, firstly, there aren't that many situations like that anymore. There are some, and absolutely we're not seeking to deny these people's experiences, but overwhelmingly now it's strangers matching with strangers in this country and abroad, and people flying abroad. And what everyone needs to understand that in Britain is around half of parental orders for surrogacy. That was 513 parental orders in England and Wales alone in 2023 originate in commercial surrogacy arrangements abroad. So we think 250 babies a year are being brought into Britain, having been bought in commercial paid arrangements which would not be legal here. So that needs to go, and that road needs to close.
Say that.
But even with the ones you talk about, with the best friend, etc., still unfair on the baby, because at birth they don't want the best friend or the sister or the aunt. They want their birth mother and nobody else. And children born of surrogacy are in fact starting to speak out against the practice. So I think it's really important that their view and their testimony is heard in this as well.
Do you think that people, I don't mean to do too much pushback here, but that, like, it's a rich person and it's banned here legally, as you say, they're going to just go and do it in another country, aren't they?
Well, they were trying to, and then the Italian government recently made surrogacy a universal crime. So Italians were getting around their domestic ban by flying to other countries, South America, California, etc., buying babies and then trying to get a passport and bringing them into Italy. And the government said, no, you're not doing that. If you try, you'll be arrested, you'll be put in prison for 2 years, you'll be fined €1 million fine. And that sounds really extreme, but this is international child trafficking and it absolutely has to stop. And we believe when the public fully come to understand what has been going on, completely in plain sight, the government knows it's happening and they don't gather enough data on what's happening. We've written to them and told them this is happening and they're not taking enough action. There will be a scandal and we need politicians to stand up and start saying, no, it can't ever be safe. It's never right for the child.
OK, well, that's a great point to end on. And as I always say, gather the data. Then we can have a look and we have a discussion. That's the purpose of this show. Thank you very much for joining us. The founder of the campaign group Surrogacy Concern, Helen Gibson.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
So, next on Free Speech Nation, Labour will decide the rules of Islamophobia and free speech. Is this the return of the blasphemy laws? Don't go anywhere.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
You may well be thinking of escaping the cloudy skies of the UK and heading to the Mediterranean, though it is rather mixed out there at the moment. There are some heavy showers and thunderstorms across parts of Malta and Sicily, though recent snowfall across the Alps should hopefully help with some skiing conditions. Perhaps the most settled conditions across parts of southern Iberia, Portugal and Spain, though there is some showery rain pushing into parts of Madeira as well. Generally, it is going to be the west that holds on to the most settled conditions during this week as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We might be transitioning into a new week, but we're holding on to a very similar weather pattern. The cloud that's been filtering in from the North Sea today is going to continue to provide outbreaks of rain and drizzle overnight, particularly for areas of England and Wales, parts of southeastern Scotland as well. This will be wintry over the hills for the Pennines, parts of the Chilterns and the Downs as well. Further towards the west, there will be some clearer skies, particularly for northwestern Scotland. That will allow temperatures to drop off, so maybe lows of -5, -6 degrees Celsius here. There could be the isolated freezing fog patch around first thing on Monday, maybe some localised icy stretches as well on untreated surfaces because of those showers around. But despite the very cold start across the northwest, it is going to see the best of the sunshine here right throughout Monday. Quite a pleasant day to come here. Elsewhere, we're going to be plagued by quite a lot of clouds, quite gloomy scenes for many of us. These showers still continuing to push their way in from the east, will still also be falling as snow over the higher ground areas, perhaps a couple of centimetres or so building up over the Pennines during the day. It is going to be feeling rather cold underneath all that cloud, particularly with the lack of sunshine, but also we have to filter and factor in that easterly wind that is filtering its way in. So whilst temperatures on the thermometer will be around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, it's going to be feeling closer to freezing for many of us during the day. As we move into Tuesday, the area of high pressure that's sat across Scandinavia and bringing us this easterly wind is still going to stick with us, but it's rejiggling ever so slightly, allowing this smaller area of low to just bring some longer spells of rain perhaps into the southeast, and maybe another area of low just bringing some spells of rain to the Isles of Scilly later on as well. For most of us, though, we do hold on to a lot of that cloud. It's going to be the northwest again that sees the greatest chance of some sunshine during the day, but that cold theme really is continuing, and that brisk easterly wind is looking like it's going to stay with us for a good few days to come. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Angela Rayner is set to create a council on Islamophobia, with former Conservative Attorney General Dominic Greaves lined up to chair it. The 16-member council will advise on defining Islamophobia and tackling anti-Muslim discrimination. Greaves, who previously chaired the Citizens UK Commission on Islam, has supported a controversial definition of Islamophobia that critics argue could curb free speech. Meanwhile, concerns grow about the potential for restricting free speech under the proposed definition. Rayner is also considering a similar council on anti-Semitism as part of a broader government effort to combat religious hatred. Is this the return of blasphemy laws? I am now joined by the legal officer at the Free Speech Union, Stephen O'Grady, and human rights activist, Iranian human rights activist Lily Mu. Welcome very much to the show. Stephen, I want to go to you first.
Yes.
Are critics' fears of the return of blasphemy laws, are they legitimate, do you think?
I think they are. I think the government has insisted that they won't be introducing blasphemy laws, but there are various ways in which blasphemy and prescriptions against it can in fact be enforced. We have a number of laws in this country that deal with religiously aggravated offences and racially aggravated offences, and that's perhaps something that we should touch on. But what Angela Rayner is proposing to do now is merely publish some guidance. And the danger with that is that that guidance will be taken up by police forces, by the Home Office, by schools, by all kinds of institutions, and enforced as a de facto law, even if there isn't any statute.
Which we've seen them do with a bunch of other things.
Absolutely, yes, yes. And it's often very difficult to challenge with a statute, a law that gets passed by Parliament. Parliamentarians can stand up, they can speak about it, they can oppose it, they can vote on it. People can lobby their politicians in order to vote in a certain way. If it's merely guidance that's pushed through by some council behind the scenes, then it's incredibly difficult to challenge and to hold them to account over decisions that are made that way.
Yeah, I mean, Lily, you were raised in Iran, now you're an activist. You grew up under a system with blasphemy laws, extreme blasphemy laws. What do you think about this move by Angela Rayner?
Honestly, I think this is the first step towards infringement on freedom of speech. Because what about the people who are not religious? How about respecting their identity and thinking? If under the Islamic Republic, people have been killed, they have been lynched to death for the simple accusation that someone has said that this person has disrespected Islam.
We've seen it in Pakistan as well. False accusations, even.
False accusations are enough. Under Sharia law, in practicing governments, under Sharia law, they are allowed to actually kill you. Someone like me should be sentenced to death according to their laws alone, just because I come from a mixed religious household and I'm not automatically choosing Islam as my religion. So my father is Muslim, my mother is Christian, and me not being a Muslim is breaking the Islamic laws. And under these kind of religious law, where do I stand then? Other than that, I want to just talk about the fact that somebody was sent to prison for burning a Quran. How many people have been sent to prison for burning the Salman Rushdie book that we all know?
Well, I'd like to say this is an ongoing case, but yes, they were charged for racial incitement. We can't get into it too much, but even without this, that suggests that there's a de facto blasphemy law.
Yeah, this is a point of serious concern. There are a number of cases on the Free Speech Union's books involving people who have spoken out about Islam in various ways. It could be critics of Islam from outside the religion. It could be those who have left the religion. And we're not talking here about, as a non-profit organisation, the Free Speech Union helps people in those situations. These are not dissidents and apostates in some faraway land. It's the UK. People are locked up for that here. People are in fear for their lives here. You think it couldn't happen here, but it is happening here.
The Batley teacher?
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
Who, is still in hiding with death threats.
Yes.
I mean, this is it to speak up on this issue, right?
Yeah.
I've had multiple death threats. The thing is, I started calling at the atrocities of the Islamic Republic within Iran, here in the UK, in Whitehall, outside the Parliament, and all over the Westminster. People who were not necessarily supporters of the regime, but they were just very devout Muslims, misunderstood my message, and they took it as Islamophobia, and they started sending all kinds of threatening messages and in-person attacks on me simply for saying down with the Islamic Republic in Iran. I was opposing the idea of politicization of Islam. Politicizing Islam means the height of law is divinity. So the person who puts the law in place answers to a divine being, not the people, not the world. And that kind of rhetoric, that kind of a law is very dangerous. This is where executions take place. This is where stoning of people take place. Also, I want to know, what is the government doing in order to stop all of these religiously aggravated honor killings that are taking place in this country? And I know there's quite a lot. I'm personally working with different activists here in the UK who are trying to combat honor killing and raising awareness about that. Nobody's talking about any of that.
The government doesn't want to alienate a certain voter base, possibly. But this is obviously, this is scary for what you're going through. But, you know, under the previous definition, I believe Labour of Islamophobia, that Labour actually adopted internally, was the idea of Muslimness. So you could make the argument that to criticise the Islamic State would be to criticise some level of Muslimness, or women. If you say that I don't think that women should be forced to wear burqas, or that's the slope that we're talking about, the slippery slope, right?
Yes, I think that's in fact one of the most insidious things about this, is that the all-party parliamentary group came up with this, what they call the working definition of Islamophobia, and that is fairly broad. They talk about it as being a form of racism rather than criticism of a religion.
An ideology.
Yes. And they also then go on to say that perceptions of Muslimness would fall within this, and cite examples of criticising, in some circumstances, criticising the actions of Islamic states, Iran being one, many others, and speaking about certain historical facts to do with Islam. So it's incredibly broad and extends well beyond the legitimate, and there is legitimate concern that nobody should be subject to direct hatred as a result of who they are or the religion they follow.
But as you said, there are already laws that exist to deal with prejudice, because, of course, anti-Muslim bigotry is real. It does happen. It should be dealt with. People who partake in it should be prosecuted according to the laws. But those laws already exist.
They do, although in many respects the law is being misapplied. I mean, talking about the definition of racism within the APPG definition, Muslims are an incredibly diverse, ethnically, culturally, and even religiously group of people. You know, the Ummah, the Islamic faithful, extends from the west coast of Africa all the way to archipelagos off the east coast of Asia, and there's incredible diversity within that. That's very separate to other ethno-religious groups, and there's a definition in UK law of an ethno-religious group, for example, the Jews or the Sikhs. If you are a Sikh, chances are you either come from a particular region in the Punjab or you have an ancestor who does. With the Jews, the entire story of the Jewish people, modern and ancient, revolves around Israel and the Jewish homeland. There's a commonality there.
And there are diseases that only affect Jewish people, for example. There are genetic conditions that only Jewish people will get, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
It's, I mean, sorry, but you, I mean, you've seen this. I've been with you at these marches, to see the hatred. Are people using fear to silence people? Because we saw obviously what happened in Sweden. Someone for burning a Quran was assassinated. This person, by the way, had been sort of the Swedish government had kind of sought to prosecute this person in a very similar way that we've seen over here.
But isn't that a reward system? That to me sounds like a very happy reward system. So if we cannot change your mind to apply yourself to the Western laws and the laws we have in this country, we're going to reward you with submitting to your extremism, appease everything you want to push on us and say, you know, this is us being culturally diverse. Well, I'm sorry, this is not culturally diverse when even in the refugees welcome demonstrations, refugees like me and my fellow compatriots are not welcome just because we oppose supporting a terrorist organization in this country. Hamas is a terrorist organization. We have all seen the atrocities they have pulled. We've all recently seen the 3 men who've been released out of the captivity of Hamas coming out, going in looking like healthy family men, looking exactly like Holocaust survivors. And I don't see how opposing such a reality, such ideology, such system is so foul that I should have to be protected by 16 or 17 different police officers every time I want to just say Hamas is a terrorist organization. If we want to free Palestine, free it from Hamas. No. That alone, like my speech alone is so... it's so wrong unless it's their voice, unless it's their message, unless it's in favor of the extremist Muslim Brotherhood version of Islam. It's not welcome. Why is it that the secular Muslims are not ever involved in this conversation?
This is what's never talked about, of course, is Muslims who leave Islam and they're also under threat with something like this, right, Stephen?
Absolutely, yes. And it's a source of some concern that we've seen with some of the policing of the demonstrations, that people who have done no more than point out that Hamas is a terrorist organisation and the police are concerned about a breach of peace, but the policing focus is on the person who is simply stating the law, and the law of this country is that Hamas is a terrorist organisation, and they are certainly seen to be appeasing the other side.
Well, we are going to watch this very carefully because, frankly, I believe it's one of the most important issues of our day and the continuation of a free and liberal democracy in the West. So, thank you very much for joining us. The legal officer of Free Speech Union, Stephen O'Grady, and Iranian rights activist, Lily Moo.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So before I go, can I just take one moment?
Yeah, OK.
Every day in the streets of London, I chanted woman life freedom. Freedom for the very purpose of freedom of speech. Inside of Iran, people are being killed and tortured every day for speaking out and seeking freedom. We cannot give up on our freedoms in this country and the democracy that people have given their lives for. People have worked so hard so that we, the collective we, can express ourselves. That comes at a price that we cannot ever give up on. Yeah. So fight for the freedom of speech in this country. We have a duty to our future generations.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Someone's gunning for my job. Coming up, we're going to show you what's going on here. See you in a minute. Thank you.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
According to a report from the RAC, many drivers see speed limits as a target rather than anything else. More than 50% of us think it's acceptable to break the speed limit.
So this morning we're asking, is it time to increase
the motorway speed limit.
Let's talk to automotive journalists Danny Kelly and Steve Fowler. Gents, what a pleasure to speak to you both in one go.
I think we should join many countries in the European Union that have 130 kilometres speed limit, which is around about 81 miles an hour. I drive to London on a weekly basis, and I think the roads are capable of handling higher speeds. I think unofficially the speed limit, without getting pulled over by the local police at the time, is probably around about 78, 80 miles an hour. If a Bobby's on the motorway doing 70 miles an hour, he wants you to overtake him. He wants the free-flowing of that motorway to continue.
So should we change 70 miles an hour? You know, if people are going 80 miles an hour, just stick to 70 miles an hour as a limit. Yes, you know, it's funny when you're driving along the motorway and there's a police car going at 70 and nobody wants to overtake. But if the average is 80, just leave it at 70.
All the gantries now are fitted with the modern signage where they can change the limit at will. We all know that. It's hard to get up to 70 half the time. So, actually, we could apply those rules, couldn't we, at 80 or even 90 miles an hour and say, well, if the weather's bad, let's reduce it. If the fog's bad, let's reduce it.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I hate to use this phrase, smart motorways, but they're the ones where you have the adjustable limits. They don't cover all of the motorway network, relatively small amount of the motorway network. It is a limit. You know, it's not a target, as I keep saying to my kids. God, they're bored of me saying that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the last part of the show. It's time for Social Sensations, the part of the show where we look at what has been going viral this week on social media. First up is this video.
Respect. When you talk about Manchester United, look, the women's football now is getting more important, but when you talk about Man United, it's only the men's, the Premier League, that we're talking about here with Mission Impossible. It's not the women's.
Well, actually, it is part of the plan. Well, it's called Project 150.
Well, I'm sorry, people around the world are not bothered.
That's not true.
It is true.
Well, I'm bothered, and I'm sitting here and telling you that I'm bothered. So don't say people around the world aren't bothered.
Yeah, they're not. They're not.
Cresta, you bothered?
I think those two need to get a room.
What you feel? Oh, wow.
I don't know anything about football. What was the question? Do people care about women's football? I don't, but I also don't care about any football.
Well, you're a woman, so nobody cares about women's football. No, what about you? Do you care about women's football?
Yeah.
Does anybody here care about women's football? No. Oh, no, yes. OK, we have one person, so very good. I care. My daughter plays football. No, I'm joking. I don't really care that much. She's rubbish. Next up is this video.
You will not be deported. You will not be deported. These are not the migrants you're looking for. These are not the migrants you're looking for.
So I sent this in. This is actually my wife. And can you make sense of this clip, Cresta?
I feel really awful laughing at this. I mean, they're not well, are they? It's just...
No, what she was doing totally works.
Oh, well, in that case, more of that, please.
Yeah, but this is like the endless people on Instagram that say if you type in men, you're going to win the lottery, they'll cleanse your energy, they'll cleanse your, you know what I mean, whatever. And it's a load of nonsense. And she clearly looked drunk.
Do you think so? She thinks she's been imbibing
That's
a little
my
bit,
opinion, that she is imbibed. That's why she was laughing at the end, and that's why she picked that top.
I think candles also now have been proven to affect your cognitive ability. We read about that, didn't we? Yeah.
Yes.
So it's an interesting thing. I mean, do you think it's OK for us to laugh a little bit at this, or do you think we're being a bit cruel?
Well, I just feel so privileged, because when I was that age, there was no internet, so you don't know what I was up to.
Were you lighting candles?
I may have been.
Right.
Okay, there we go.
Glastonbury at that.
Well, everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us for Free Speech Nation. Thank you to my panel, Bruce Devlin and Cresta Wetton.
Thank you.
And to all of my brilliant guests this evening. And if you want to join us live in the studio and be part of our wonderful audience, you can. Please go to www.sroaudiences.com. Stay tuned for the brilliant Ben Leo tonight. That is next. Don't forget, Headliners is on every night at 11 p.m. That's the late night paper preview show where comedians talk you through the next day's top stories. Thank you so much for joining us for Free Speech Nation. Good night. Take care.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We might be transitioning into a new week, but we're holding on to a very similar weather pattern. The cloud that's been filtering in from the North Sea today is going to continue to provide outbreaks of rain and drizzle overnight, particularly for areas of England and Wales, parts of southeastern Scotland as well. This will be wintry over the hills for the Pennines, parts of the Chilterns and the Downs as well. But towards the west, there will be some clearer skies, particularly for northwestern Scotland. That will allow temperatures to drop off, so maybe lows of -5, -6 degrees Celsius here. There could be the isolated freezing fog patch around first thing on Monday, maybe some localised icy stretches as well on untreated surfaces because of those showers around. But despite the very cold start across the northwest, it is going to see the best of the sunshine here right throughout Monday. Quite a pleasant day to come here. Elsewhere, we're going to be plagued by quite a lot of clouds, quite gloomy scenes for many of us. These showers still continuing to push their way in from the east, will still also be falling as snow over the higher ground areas, perhaps a couple of centimetres or so building up over the Pennines during the day. It is going to be feeling rather cold underneath all that cloud, particularly with the lack of sunshine, but also we have to filter and factor in that easterly wind that is filtering its way in. So whilst temperatures on the thermometer will be around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, it's going to be feeling closer to freezing for many of us during the day. As we move into Tuesday, the area of high pressure that's sat across Scandinavia and bringing us this easterly wind is still going